Hello and welcome to the ABQ Show. I'm your host, Wally Drangmeister. And today on the ABQ Show, we're going to be talking about nominees for the New Mexico Sports Hall of Fame. And I just want to start off by saying we are not talking about the worthiness. Is this person the one that needs to get in? There's some great people here. All the ones we're going to talk about are fantastic. And I'm very pleased to be joined by one of the biggest experts of sports in New Mexico and my uncle, Tom Drangmeister. Tom, great to have you here on the ABQ Show.
Nice to be here with you, nephew.
Yeah. It's one of those, when we talk sports or we just talk history of New Mexico, if Tom doesn't know them, I'm surprised. And so we went over a list of people to talk about. But Tom, this is a great list, and all of these people obviously won't get in, but they're all deserving in some way.
Yeah, and there's like over 100 or something on the and you need to vote is the biggest thing. That's one of the big things we're teaching here today is we want you to vote. And it's the New Mexico Sports Hall of Fame.
NMSHOF.com, and you can go in and register their email. You can also go to their Facebook page and like people. Right. And they say that you can't, that these votes aren't the only thing that are taken into account, but I certainly think it cannot hurt. So
no, I think in what they do with that is they put the highest vote getter in for sure with the finalists, and they might have more than one or so from a list that Wally's made up, and it's and everybody has different opinions on what's more valuable as a player, because like most Hall of Fames, like in baseball and all that, most of them are players. Every once in a while you get owners and general managers, but mostly it's their what they did as a player or as a coach. Like, I don't really know. I know Ralph Tasker played basketball, but he got in because he won 1,100 and some games. You can't keep him out. Just like the Shock family, boy, the dad is up now, and Pete, the son, he has the second most wins in New Mexico in basketball. And he's already in it, but his dad's the one that started the program in Cliff, and he was actually the coach when I started coaching, and he must have, I don't know the time frame he was there, but he was there for 25, 30 years as the head coach.
Yeah, and they said the only year I think he missed was in '45 when he joined the armed forces during World War II.
Right, and then from then when he gave it up, I think Dave Radesky, he was a Silver graduate, and I think he coached for 2 years because Pete, Dale's son, he was coaching at Silver High, and then he decided to leave there and go to Cliff, and of course what he did at Cliff was unbelievable, how many state championships he won in that. So that's quite a program, the Cliff. And now that the Shocks are gone, because Brian coached there and won a state championship or two.
Pete's son, Pete's son. Dale's grandson.
Right. And then now there's no Shocks that are in Cliff, and their program has decidedly gone down in basketball.
Well, I like to, I played for Pete Shock at Silver High my sophomore and junior year, and I like to tease him that, he's certainly Hall of Fame coach, second most high school wins in New Mexico. And I always, when I see him every now and then, I say, what a bad player I was. You got fired from Silver. I must not have been a very good player because you turned out to be a pretty darn good coach. But really great family, great story. And, Dale was a good man. I knew him way past his coaching, but he was the one that got all started, and that is a fantastic story about the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and he was, he would come and watch Pete play when he was playing up here at the state tournament, and he even came to watch the whole family. I mean, that was something and then you could tell where the Cliff Cowboys were after the game. There would be all the 6'5" guys with cowboy hats on, standing up at the balcony up there.
Well, let's take a look at some of the other ones. The first one by alphabetical is A.J. Bramblet, La Cueva High School, played at the University of Arizona, made it in the NBA. AJ was a fantastic player. It's one of those, you're getting old where he he was in college in 1999, so it's been 20 years since he was in college.
Right.
But AJ was a fantastic
And then,
player.
and then he played at Arizona. He didn't sit on the bench, and they were national champions. So he's got a national championship ring. And when I talk to him, I have to stand on some steps because he's about 6'11", and he was a great high school player too, boy, and then college, and then he played professional. I didn't read all of these things that they did. That's just what I know for sure. And now he's back in New Mexico, and his children will be playing. I saw him in the AYBL playing. And,
Yep.
And it's going to keep going on, and you couldn't ask for a nicer young man than AJ.
Well, speaking of a nice young man, and it's one of those, when you're getting older, everybody's young. But the second guy on the list is a man, Alan Branch. He is just a physical specimen, always has been since I think I saw him when he was an 8th and 9th grader here in Albuquerque.
Yeah, and he could be in the Hall of Fame just with his high school credentials, because in football, they played him everywhere. I mean, and he was a man, boy.
Yes.
And on defense, they played him at defensive end, and then he was a fullback once in a while, a tight end. He was running back punts, and here he was 6'6" or 7" and weighed, in the 200-pound range, but he could run and everything. When he got to the pros, which, he's had a great career, and he's got a couple Super Bowl rings because luck is sometimes it just happens. Yes. And boy, they needed a defensive tackle, and he got in with them, and I think he won 2. I don't know the stats.
Yeah, but
for sure.
He's a Super Bowl, 2 Super Bowl rings in his 11-year career.
Pretty good, huh?
Pretty good. Well, and what I like to tell people is, despite all of his football accomplishments, my memories of Alan are him as a high school basketball player. He was so much fun to watch. He was so big, but he had just so much agility,
Well, he can run the floor. That's one thing. He can run it because he didn't get to be in the 300-pound range until he went to the NFL. Even at Michigan, he didn't get up that high, but he was so tall, and he never was what you call obese.
Yes.
Yeah, he was always built well, and when you're a defensive lineman or even an offensive lineman, you got to put on the poundage.
Yes.
In the NFL.
Yeah, and people don't realize a lot of the NFL, the offensive linemen in particular, but also the defensive linemen, they're almost like sumo wrestlers. Their muscles are gigantic, but they put on weight in addition to that.
Right, and offense is more than, because like now they're looking for the defensive ends, like the 7 techniques, to be about 6'6" and weigh about 265.
Yes.
And with speed, because speed is almost as strong as strength, when you're going to be a pass rusher.
Well, the next one we want to talk about is Amber Ashcraft, and her career is still going strong. Soccer coach at La Cueva High, and it's impressive. She has 9 state titles and 6 runners-up. That's not too bad of a run early in her career. So.
No, it's go along like with Larry Waters when he was winning the boys state championships in soccer when he was the boys coach there.
Now, I always hate to do this. Your brother, my dad, was a basketball coach, and there's always a tenuous relationships with referees.
Yeah.
This next guy, Bill Gracie, he was a referee, but he also has done other things in sports. 41 years as a basketball coach at the high school and collegiate level. And so, that's officiating. That's officiating. Officiating.
Because he coached baseball. I didn't know him as a basketball coach. But he was a basketball official.
Yeah, official.
And then I know in my first year in Albuquerque in '83, Cibola won the state baseball championship, and Bill was the coach. And me and Bill have talked about his confrontations with your dad and my brother, but they were all good. They really were. And it's one thing about your dad. He might get on him during the game, but when the game was over, he'd go buy him dinner and a beer.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen that way that much anymore.
Well, just before we go forward, a great story along those lines is Moose Stubing, the longtime WAC official. Most Lobos know about him, called a lot of great games. Also worked as a third base coach in Major League.
And one time he waved the guy in, got thrown out at the plate, and it cost him the series, and he got fired. But anyway, I met Moose when I was coaching at Gadsden, and he lived in El Paso. And him and Bobby Deibler, and Moose was just starting, and he wasn't even calling high school varsity. He was just doing the JVs, and Bobby was doing the varsity. And Bobby refereed a lot of my games at Gadsden, and Moose did some. But by the time he got to be a varsity coach or official, then I was helping your dad.
Well, and the thing I always remember about Moose is when I was a kid, one of my jobs that I did, and then later my younger brother did, was bring the referees drinks, Cokes and stuff at halftime of the Western games. And for a guy like my dad to be getting on him, and just what a gentleman he was. He knew I was his son, and he was still nice to me. The same guy that's been that my dad's been yelling at him.
And your dad had a great relationship, and Moose Stubing too.
Yeah,
he would be on the road. He would tell so many Moose Stubing jokes with me. How they would be on the road, and your dad would play a trick on him at the hotel and stuff like that. But they were good friends.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now here's Mr. Golf in Albuquerque, Billy Moya. He anyone who's done any golf, it's interesting. So
the Moyas,
Moya, it says in his bio, and this is one of those. This just shows how long he was around in golf. Started his career as a caddy at the Albuquerque Country Club. Been involved in running the golf businesses here in Albuquerque for a long time.
Yeah, they were at Los Altos. I think him and his brother, and then their sons started working there also.
Yeah, and so it's interesting. He's just been one of those great fixtures of the community. Now, this next one I want to get up here is Cindy Roybal, Pecos Roybal, and I heard of her. I knew a little bit about her as a coach, but what I didn't realize was that she was part of the Redheads, which was basically a traveling barnstorming team of women basketball players. And I remember when I was, I believe, in second grade, growing up in Alamogordo, the Redheads came to town, and that was a big deal. And it's one of those that was kind of a Harlem Globetrotter women's sort of team, but they would play local men's teams.
And they weren't all true Redheads, I'll tell you that. A lot
there
of
was
them were dyed or wearing wigs, but we had that at Gadsden when I was coaching there as one of our ways to make money. We'd have donkey basketball, and then we had the Redheads, and it was fun.
Yeah, those were the days.
They were good too, but they came over to me like at a timeout, and they said, "You got to quit rebounding like you're rebounding," and I says, "Yeah, okay, that's cool," So you didn't do it when you're a competitor. You play hard,
right.
And so I did. I laid off of them. But Cindy, I've known Cindy a long time.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. It's time for break. Stay tuned. When we come back, we will be talking more about New Mexico Sports Hall of Fame nominees here on the ABQ Show.
What is glamour? Frailty. What is desire? Diamonds. They say a life lived without passion is hardly worth living.
Ma'am? Ma'am? Ma'am?
Dang, this one made me feel all special.
High school sports are back. The 2018-19 season kicks off, and you could watch every ProView Network broadcast live on the NFHS network. Every moment, from every game, from every sport, including all NMAA state championships. Get your highly discounted monthly pass now. Go to ProViewNetworks.com and sign up. Watch New Mexico's best.
To win the race, I can't even explain how, in fact, I'm getting goosebumps right now talking about it. No matter where you go, you're an Indy 500 winner. The only way to be successful in racing is to stay on top of the technical edge, and we've done that with our dealership. So a lot of the technology in our service department and sales processes, everything is the very latest. That gives you an edge. That's being competitive in the car business. You can take it any way you want, but that's the truth.
Car Crafters, proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
Are you sure we're supposed to be doing this?
Don't worry, I've watched him do it 1,000 times. Come on, what's the worst that can happen?
No! Bad dog!
Hi, welcome to Car Crafters. What happened? Don't worry, we'll make it like it never happened.
Car Crafters, it's like it never happened.
Dream Style Remodeling has been wowing homeowners in New Mexico since 1989. Selected as Best Custom Home Remodeler for 3 consecutive years by readers of the Albuquerque Journal, we're also your exclusive provider for top home improvement brands like Renewal by Anderson, Four Seasons, Blaze King, and many others. Founded and headquartered in Albuquerque, Dream Style Remodeling is family owned and now employs more than 500 people across the southwestern U.S. In fact, we've helped more than 60,000 homeowners improve their home in New Mexico, Arizona, California, Idaho, and West Texas. We're committed to providing a superior customer experience. We've earned 4.6 stars with hundreds of online reviews and have an A+ with the BBB. Dream Style Remodeling is a proud supporter of UNM Athletics. Visit our beautiful 10,000 square foot showroom at 1460 Renaissance Boulevard across from Sam's Club or dreamstyleremodeling.com to make your home remodeling dreams come true.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walk up to the cashier, order up a root beer and a #1. Cover it with green stuff, 1 scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of ProView Sports Network. Don't sacrifice quality of flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenpride@abq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
The world-famous Laguna Burger is beautifully handcrafted. A burger that's created from certified Angus beef, sinfully cooked to juicy perfection, and garnished with New Mexico's Hatch green chili. Tempt your taste buds with mouth-watering fresh ingredients.
Cut! We're gonna need another Laguna Burger. Try the irresistible, world-famous Laguna Burger. Visit thelagunaburger.com. It's fresh with a kick. Take 32.
Get into the game with Garden Swartz Team Sales. They have everything you need, from screen printing, embroidery, and digital printing services, high school letterman jackets, and all high school and club uniforms, and individual and team apparel with the most reliable brands like Speedline, Rollins, and Wilson. And don't forget to check out the latest F7 Shut helmet. It's all at Garden Swartz Team Sales. Give them a call, 505-884-1234. Garden Swartz Team Sales.
Welcome back to the ABQ Show. I'm Wally Drangmeister, and we're visiting with Tom Drangmeister, sports expert, and my favorite uncle.
Yeah.
Both are true.
The only one that's left.
That's all right. Longevity's okay, too, about the New Mexico Sports Hall of Fame. Just looking at some of the nominees, talking about them. This next one, Tom, Fred Young, New Mexico State football player. I know a lot about Fred just because I was at New Mexico State and I got to see him play. The team itself was not, highly successful during that era, but he could play.
Boy, he was a linebacking fool.
When he played at New Mexico State, he was a linebacker, and you talked a little bit about Alan Branch doing everything. Urlacher, both in college and the pros, they would have him do things above and beyond his position. Fred Young's a linebacker, they had him by his senior year. They had him running back kickoffs and punts. And this guy's a linebacker who ends up playing with the Seattle Seahawks, most valuable player on their special teams, and just a very excellent athlete.
Yeah, he was an all-around football player too. He had the speed, the strength, and and he was big enough.
Yes,
especially to play linebacker.
Well, when you're on a college campus and your football team record isn't really good, there's some pressure on you. I just wanted to say, in terms of how he handled himself his 4 years that I was around him at New Mexico State, very much of a gentleman. It's one of those. He was such a good athlete. I only got to play pickup games against him at the activity center a couple times because winners stay, and I certainly never beat a team that he was on. So it was one of those. It would be 15-4, and the next team would be up. But great athlete, great guy. It's one of those. My recollection is that that this was more Albuquerque, and they broadened it to New Mexico. He's one of those now that's broadened. I think. Might be deserving, and again, not trying to tell the folks who make those decisions what their job is, how to do it, but absolutely a great guy, great player, great history in New Mexico.
But one of the big things getting in the Hall of Fame is, it's pretty certain, like if you played professionally, that means you probably had a pretty good high school career and college career, and that's just like we talked about Alan Branch, and just like the Aggies, boy, like when they had Lacey and Sam played in pros, and Collins and all them guys. They played in in the NBA.
Yeah,
and they did good. They're the team that came in third in the NCAA's.
Yeah,
and I was living there. I was coaching at Gadsden at the time, and I lived about 5 blocks away from the New Mexico State campus in the Pan American Center. So
that was
and then one year when I was there at Gadsden, they had the state basketball tournament at the Pan Am Center, and I didn't enjoy that. I used to love to go up to Albuquerque and and spend the whole week in Albuquerque, and that was fun.
Well, that was during my high school period when they held the state tournament there, and I went to the state tournament in Las Cruces as a fan, because we didn't make it to the state tournament. So now I want to talk about this next guy, Keith Leupold, volleyball coach, legendary career at Las Cruces High. He's had, I believe it's 5 state championships, just really excellent guy, comes from Deming, New Mexico. The Leupold family, famous in southern New Mexico, but Keith just had a fantastic career as a coach.
And when I was coaching there, I coached their freshmen for 5 years, football, basketball, track. And his brother Kenneth played for me, but Keith was still in elementary school. But the whole family, and their dad, he was the photographer at the high school, and he would be at all of the sporting events, taking pictures. They loved it. They loved sports.
Yeah.
And and Keith, he did a great job, boy. I mean, whenever I see him, I always mention, what a great job he's done.
Well, when one of my daughters was playing volleyball at Cibola, Keith, they played Las Cruces, and after the game, we went up, and I knew Keith from playing basketball, and everyone was surprised. It's like, how do you know Keith Leupold?
Yeah.
And Coach Leupold said, well, we used to sit on the bench against each other in basketball. So I was like,
but
exactly
he coached at Socorro, I think, and had a lot of success there, and he's Ken's older brother. And no, I enjoyed the Leupold family in Deming.
Yeah. So a big shout out to Keith. Now here's a guy I know you know well. Talk about Rob Evans, Tom.
Well, Rob was, and I met Rob, when he was actually, I saw him play in high school, and that was a year when Hobbs didn't have 12 great players. They had him and another guy that was the 2 great players, but Coach Tasker always, if you fouled, you come out of the game, and all that, and he couldn't do that year because he just had those 2 good players that he shouldn't, he couldn't have, I shouldn't tell him what to do, but that was a time when he might not have taken them out when they fouled or on the regular times. But Rob was a great high school player. And then, of course, he went to, and he was Lou Henson's assistant, too, at New Mexico State. And then he had some good jobs, Arizona State, and I think it was was it Mississippi that he coached in college?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So yes.
Because he had it, and then Ed Murphy, who was another coach at New Mexico State, and he took. I think Rob took over for Murph, but both of those guys. And they were always there. I always saw them, and they even used my gym a few times when they were redoing their floor. And Coach Henson would bring the teams down, and I helped them recruit a couple of kids that, Bill Allen and Bill Moore and them guys that were from Deming kids. And when I was at Deming, I was the luckiest coach in the world because I had some great athletes. And that's, of the 5 years I was there as a freshman coach, they won state 3 of those years when they grew up. And
when
were
those
on the
players,
varsity.
a few years after that.
Yeah, and so it wasn't like I was a great coach, but it was fun.
Well, and Rob's a guy that, he's done it every way. So he's done it as a player and as a coach, and and not to make fun of my buddy Keith Lupo, but Keith as a coach. That's how he's
right.
Rob really had a fantastic career in both roles.
And I would have always thought he would have been a great football player too, because he was always stocky and muscular.
Now here's the next guy I want to talk about is somebody that we here at ProView Networks certainly know about, and that's the owner of ProView, Steve Davis. So he's a guy we see walking the halls here, runs ProView Network, came out of Clovis, New Mexico, and came to Albuquerque. And Tom, you probably know Steve as well as anybody. Talk about his career and some highlights of Steve.
Well, Steve, I met Steve when he was playing for Clovis in high school, and that's when I was helping your dad. And so we tried to recruit him, but he already went ahead and committed to UNM. And of course, he played for Norm at UNM, Norm's last year's.
Right.
Because Steve wasn't involved. He was right before that, the Lobo Gate deal.
Right.
That one game I knew they didn't have many players left, but Steve scored like 22 points and they beat UTEP after all they lost them players.
Yeah, they'd had some discipline problems and some controversy, and Steve really stepped it up. One of the, and there's two kinds of memorable wins. There's those that, you go to the next level or you get into the playoffs, and then there's ones where no one expects you to win and you win anyway. And I think that game
they were supposed to, because it was Texas Western maybe, but they were really good, and everybody laughed about the Lobos, and the Lobos beat them. Yeah. And they had another Davis on the team at the time, and they were the 2 high scorers that game. Dan Davis.
The Davis and Davis show for you and
And then what you got to think about Steve is that, and then Steve, he was in the construction business, but he'll still coach, and he was an assistant coach for Frank Castillo at La Cueva.
Right.
And then he went to Sandia and was an assistant for Nauber, and then they made him the head coach for like 2 years, and he's always been. And then when he started ProView, it's a nonprofit, and he wasn't making money, and he spent all the money he made in construction. He spent it on the station so he could bring sports to everybody that could watch him. He would do the football games, the basketball games whenever he could and had a chance. And now he's grown and grown and grown. And if you want to watch high school sports, you're going to see Steve's work has really paid off.
Yeah, you're going to see him on both sides of the camera now, making it happen with the organization. Does the games as well. Very nice man, super humble, great for athletics, and particularly for high school.
He does a lot for coaches too. I mean, you ask the coaches, boy. And then Steve he's always been in for the kids. I mean, he would do stuff for the kids if they couldn't afford to do this, and he coached in the summer too, them basketball clubs team.
Yeah, the AAU and those type of clubs.
And he coached there several years. And so, but he would pay for the kids, for their airplane flights and all that kind of stuff. So he's a good man.
So well, that's it for this edition. NMSHOF.com, New Mexico Sports Hall of Fame.com. Log on, get an account, review some of the nominees, vote for your favorite. Also go to their Facebook page and check it out. Some great stories, great men and women with fantastic athletic careers, both on the court and as coaches and in other roles. And that's it for this week's edition of the ABQ Show. We really appreciate you watching and hope to see you back soon. Thanks a lot.